with Walter and Trinidad joining the league, our sports program are becoming harder to be able to make it work this season. We are exploring options for the future seasons.
Buy in a campground now?
No.
Do you have it to the ball field?
RTC will be there tomorrow to get everything done.
Please do.
Okay, so you guys got that?
Yeah.
Give me your reports Friday and I'll include them. Yeah, it was tough last night.
I think the debrucing does is it limits you to the rate of inflation in your population. Now, earlier I heard you wanting to restrict or slow down your growth. When you slow down your growth, you're slowing down your ability to have money under Bruce, under table. So that you've got a conflict there going on.
Well, that's one of those things
Yeah.
that we gotta look at.
Yeah, I'm sure if you're gonna ask some of the voters about debrucing and you're espousing limiting growth, there, it's not gonna sit well with wanting them to debruce. That's what I'm trying to point out, is it's a negative that's there.
And I don't know whether we want to slow down growth. It's just, we're at that point, we need funds for our infrastructure. But yeah, okay, we have people coming in that are building homes, so,
Well,
it's a balancing act.
and the other side of the coin is if you look at your tax revenue, your tax notices that came out, your inflation rate on your tax notices was about 30%. So your level of Bruce should go way up this year with what's happening in the tax basis.
But within your tax basis, and we've had this discussion, is your mill levy's always gonna be.
Mill levy,
Well,
the mill levy stays the same.
your revenue is built off of your mill levy.
Okay,
And as your values go up, your revenue goes up.
let's move on. Anything else on operations?
We're working through it. The water plant side of things, we obviously had some issues, this week, starting on Thursday. New construction we're dealing with, we're out there trudging through the pastures and the prairies, looking for new sewer lines, not necessarily new ones, but ones that we haven't put our eyes on before, and that has brought on some more items that we're working through, working on the water plant side, so we're pretty busy right now.
Quick question, Donnie, can you manufacture the part?
Can I manufacture that part? Absolutely not. It's an electric actuator and motor specialized for that valving. And unfortunately,
Workarounds?
not really. Without a manual, you'd be because that valve's on a timer within the SCADA system, so it's not really feasible to station a guy there to open and close the valve.
What's our backup to that problem?
The backup at this point is we're essentially having to run the fan press more, we're decanning longer, we're speeding up the process, which makes it a little less efficient as far as, we like to see the sludge sit for longer periods of time before we run it through, so we don't get as up to get it out. So we still have a lagoon as an emergency. We get a flood or that we can open and close, but you're taking a complete automated process and trying to operate it off of one manual valve. Would become very time consuming to do that.
Okay. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute the forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by council or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson or, upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authorities. Any citizen input, Karen? All right. Agenda items, James?
Real estate proposal, like I said, we went through it. You have both of them there. It was requested last meeting that we put in a blind proposal, came to the board. Nobody else has seen it except for what was in this packet here. That was one of the other reasons of not putting it out on the web, put out the full packet out there, because this is one of those deals that was like,
Mr. President, if I may,
you may.
I'd like to make a motion at this time to table this, I think utilize, indefinitely.
All right, so there, is a motion to table, I'm gonna rephrase it a little and you tell me if I'm catching the drift. There's a motion to table a change to how we, with the real estate.
It's my opinion that we have a cost associated with each one, that we get at least the cost, at least. So we may have two properties adjacent to each other. One might have a cost of $7,000, but maybe the market or appraisal is $4,000. If we would sell it for $4,000, we're going to show in our budget a $3,000 loss, and we have not budgeted for that. So we've got our property management fund and we have the general fund. Unless we get at least the cost, we will show a deficit in our budget.
When and who developed this cost table?
Well, we've been trying to get some background on that, and what I talked to is our previous auditor. He said he thinks that was what Colorado City acquired the lot for. So there may have been back taxes on this one, and that's why it's $7,000 of costs. And this one they may have acquired for $1,000. So even though they're similar properties, the costs are sometimes drastically different, and it will hit our budget.
Can we be the check and balance on that and say, this is what this has to sell for minimum?
Minimum.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying, it's one of those built-in deals that it can't be a blanket that, okay, this is what that property is.
Yeah.
We might end up having to hold on to it for another 10 years to recoup that cost, or whatever.
David or Harlan, either of you have thoughts? You've been here like more than I have.
I was just wanting to help, Metro Board establish values and know what they have, so that's kind of my purpose of even starting this process.
Yeah, my proposal was at service of the community, so it doesn't matter to me what you guys do.
Okay.
Well, and I appreciate what both of you guys have
Yes.
done for it, because otherwise,
All in favor signify by aye.
We're doing currently that day.
goes in to the packet next time to say whether you accept the proposal or you want a counter offer with that.
This is how it affects our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Application, I know that there was 2 additions that you wanted to put in, of staking the property and staking, building position, within that checklist. Is there anything else that might need to go in that form?
Well, isn't that plot plan, you might wanna spell that number 2 item there, but that plot plan really tells you, should tell you all 4 corners and should tell you exactly where your building should be on that plot.
I think,
Plan does,
Yeah,
but
I-
the dirt doesn't.
I like Bob's idea. I think it should be like a subsection of that plot plan with 2 boxes saying,
Yeah.
okay, stake out where your house is going to be and stake out the plot itself.
yeah,
Prior to excavation.
Yeah.
yes.
And I believe
Or
if
prior to
I'm,
approval.
if I'm understanding this right, this is gonna be a living, breathing, changing document for a while, and, there's no need in this part of the process to, get bent out of shape. It's gonna change.
Well, for luck, we were able to convert this into a Word, Karen converted it into a Word program, so we can make the changes where before we didn't have it in our program,
Yeah.
so.
So I assume we'll notice other changes. I mean, even on the back page where we talk about things like what days they meet, I mean, once we have a board in place, they may not wanna meet those days at all,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It's a living thing
We just, all of that in place, so
at this point.
that's where I'm at, it's just that if you wanna go on with those changes, we can make up the form. I know I already had a guy this morning was adding a deck onto his house, reviewed his plans, everything, off on it, but I told him
If his deck breaks into the easement part or the borderlines.
I also talked to Randy, told him that we were going back into place and we're gonna have to retroactive this, and he said, no problem, he says, I knew it was coming, but, we're gonna go retro back to these houses and let them. That was, I'm sorry, mower for Parks and Rec, like I said, those were what we got for, quotes. Looking at commercial, I didn't think of, Grasshopper. I have dealt with like Grasshopper, out of Canyon City. Toros,
The two Toros I looked at are, you can add 5,000 to that.
yeah, it was out of the ballpark.
Hmm?
They're very
What's the
close.
difference, I think?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean,
Mahindra's usually cheaper than Kubota and the tractor.
What is?
Mahindra?
they don't have a zero turn mower. Mahindra does.
Go ahead, Greg.
Are you looking to get more bids? Is that what you're trying to do right now?
Well, give us direction as to what you wanted.
Okay. What were you looking at on the Kubota you was talking about?
10.5.
10.5, okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion at this time. I would make a motion to allow Parks and Rec to spend 11,000 total and have SDA approve what SDA doesn't cost us what the lawyer does, and the lawyer actually works for SDA also. So the SDA can give us guidance, because the one statute they brought to me covers construction contracts, not purchases.
Okay. I'll pull that up tomorrow.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to allow Parks and Rec $1,000 better ad. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Nothing for attorneys' reports.
New business?
Bonnie said earlier, what's these water issues
I'm sorry?
the water issues you were talking about at the beginning of the meeting? Why are both plants down?
So we have some electrical issues within the plant that we're dealing with, and had Evoca Siemens come out and trace those out. It's all the hard wiring, it's just getting old. That was the reason for the main plant being down. Cold Springs was down. There was a pressure transducer that was, it's hard to say, you have similar to this one, and they need, the cleaning times need to be moved up, I think, or at least the intervals. And as those skids get a little older, the pressures change in them, and the parameter that one was set at.
Considering the wiring and your transducers, assuming it's corrosion. I don't know what it is, I'm just throwing this out there.
Mhm.
We know we have a serious corrosion problem because the bolts have to be replaced.
Mhm.
What else is going to be?
And then everything else is essentially stainless steel. And run the main plant.
There's corrosion issues?
I believe we have, not specific to corrosion, I think we have age issues. Where you've got wiring that's been there for 15 years in a conduit in a damp environment. It's not corroding, but it is getting brittle.
Plus then you got
Well, we have-
vibration.
Vibration.
We have brownouts and we have power surges
Yes.
and we have
Sounds to me like
electrical.
bad connections and such, and that's generally oxidation, which is, as you would say, another word for corrosion,
Well, you pull it out and you look at it, it's not corroded.
right?
So,
Degraded. Okay.
Yep.
And so we have to look at actual physical degradation as being an issue.
mhm.
Okay.
Not,
which.
not
which-
systematically, not completely, but in certain
It
aspects,
seems to
yes.
be an issue.
Which, at this point, we can change our connections, our barrel connections that go through panels, things like that, which will give us a fix probably for another 6 months to 10 years. But, you know, it's something that we gotta look forward to down,
I think it
down the
becomes
road.
more of and once you get it, the repairs done, becomes more of a true maintenance item in maintaining it. So we're not replacing 10 of them, you might replace one of them.
Thank you. My next piece I have, Mr. President,
Yes.
use of the approved, water, use of the water bill for approved notifications. I think it's time to inform the, property owners to read the covenants. I'm not talking about any, we're coming after you yet, but give them notice to either ask where it's at on our website, which we know isn't 100% correct, and I know that Jim has been working in the back to try to get the correct ones, but give them a heads up before all of this hits to start reading the, covenant on their particular property and how to locate the proper covenants for their property lot and unit number. And then I have a couple of business.
And I think also tied into that is make sure they know where all their corner stakes are. They have to be visible.
We need to
Well, the
communicate
stakes
that
are in
accurately.
at this, but I'm just talking, I just communicate to the public, hey, you do have covenants.
You want a heads up to make sure that you are in compliance.
Yes. That's all I'm asking for at that.
Makes sense. Any other new business? Old business?
I have only two, one of them was covered, the water standpipe calibration. Donnie's offered to check
Do
it
that
quickly,
tomorrow.
because it is up too much for where we need to be. Old business in this one, conversation of chipping.
The county, the last conversation I had didn't really go much further than we have a small chipper and wasn't really gonna offer it up to be used. Older unit, they were worried about longevity of it.
Well, you know, Mr. Chairman, I don't know how to proceed on this, but if they're not going to, want to offer use of their resources, maybe we should withdraw use of our resources. Because that pit is not a burn pile. It's been used as that, but that's not what its, purpose is.
We've had multiple conversations with Mr. Nugent on it, and I've talked to him personally on the phone. I talked to him last meeting when he was here, kinda expressed what, and he kinda understood it, and he feels that long as he is notified and given the right opportunity, which Donnie was with me in that conversation and told him that it was pasted to his front door, notifications, trips to catch him, or now that I have a cell phone, we'll say, okay, this is the day. He was not totally against it, cause he understood what it was for the community, and that it was probably one of the safest places, long as we didn't stack up like we did over a 2-year period. If they were smaller piles, he was kinda in agreement with that, wouldn't you say, Donnie?
He was, as long as notification
And
was.
that we didn't have one great big pile that we burned that was gonna last.
So, also, it's not approved for that use. That's where we're at on this.
Okay.
I think we just need, I mean, we have to have a place to burn something.
We do
can't
not.
chip. Well, I disagree. I think we
It's
have to
not our
burn
stuff,
sometime,
right?
well, we're picking up trash, cause we have some around town right now. I mean, I'd like to have a little chipper. In fact, there's one on Gwen O'Burney right now. But I think that, you know, we use common sense and the guy's willing, I mean, he might change every other day, but you can't go by that. We gotta do the best effort we can do, and it's a fire practice thing for the fire department every year, because they need training, because we don't have houses around here that will burn down just to burn. And I think that if we can tell them and give them time, and have his wife leave for the day, or do something while the thing's burning, that's more and above what we need to do, but that is a safe place to burn, cause there's nothing around it to catch fire.
I was over and over and over in the same place.
Actually, they finally burned last year and they broke it down into 3 different ones.
How often did they do it after
At the golf course,
underneath? And who's gonna pay for that cleanup?
so we're burning and according to Gagliano, which is our engineer on the pit, that there's no, issues with our permit. We're more than allowed to burn there. You're below topsoil, anything that's viable,
So you can bury it?
so that when we reclaim it,
You bury it?
you bury that in.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Greg.
Because I'm in somewhat of an agreement with Mr. Getting fire danger, I think, should be a priority for our community, and I would think that that's what this is doing. But at the same time, I don't want it to catch-all for
Our region, the county takes care of all of the roads within Colorado City. The only limbs that they're bringing to the pit are within the Rye, Colorado City. Now, we can probably get them to maybe omit the Rye piece of it, and they're only bringing stuff, limbs and stuff that they, for maintaining the roads within our district. I'm sure they would be open to that conversation. But the conversation and assurances I've been given from them, a lot of times they chip in place where that's feasible. Where they do have to haul limbs within our district, they've been hauling them there. So, and then our limbs, we've done it, we've tried to limit the pile that we've had to burn at the golf course, and that's kind of where this started and moved up to the pit. Because of the drought conditions we were in and the fire dangers we were in, we weren't able to burn as much or as often, and that's what made the pile larger up there. I'm myself committed as a public works director to keep that pile within reason, due to those, learning from the mistakes or the situation we were put in prior. Next thing you know, we got a pile has to be cut down into 5 different piles to actually burn.
The other aspect too is when we do have it down at the golf course, and just being here a year, I've noticed it's too easy of an access for our people here to haul other things than just limbs and branches and stuff. That's why I think we ended up with a pile of tires down there. That's why we ended up with, I know I went by there the other day, there's somebody threw a mattress there, whereas
We took
out
it
at
out,
the,
but
whereas at the pit wise, it is.
it's a secure location in the aspect that when the gate is open, it's usually the county is manning it. They don't leave the gate open if they're not having somebody there, and then obviously we have key and access to it when we are there. So there is some, it's not 100%, but it's probably 95% to where we can keep the unwanted items out of there.
And that's one thing that we might be looking at too, is do we wanna have it on a Saturday or something like that where we do man it to do a cleanup for the city of Colorado City and say, okay, you can bring your branches and stuff at that time, and we review that, that's all that's being hauled out there is branches and
We did that before. We had that open.
3 years ago, yeah.
I don't have a problem. Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was gonna say also, and I don't know if this is feasible or not, it's just an idea I'm throwing out. Mulch, people pay good money to go down and get mulch. Would it be feasible for us to either have I don't really wanna buy a mulch machine, but, maybe have somebody, come in and mulch it and let them take, they can sell the mulch.
I've had one conversation with a local company that has a chipper, about, and it's just been a preliminary conversation about, hey, get, item in there, maybe either through the roads or whatever department, to where we set aside some money to bring in a mulcher for a couple days. The pricing on those,
Is not correct. Just because they take care of the roads, those roads are paid for by taxes and everything else, does not give them an obligation out here. That's, invitation only. And if they truly do not want to work with us, their invitation can be withdrawn.
well, and they've also worked with us in other aspects, through, the fire department and the county and us, of providing, water trucks, tenders, all that stuff at our beck and call.
I
I
actually
don't-
went and spoke to the fire department,
Mhm.
and they were concerned about the size of the last burn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's, we all sat
And
down and had a meeting about
They
it.
are concerned about what might be going on now, they're gonna take a look at it. But, that's just, I don't know the actual size because I haven't driven up there because gates generally lock.
Mhm.
So, I don't know what's in there. How big is the pile down
The
there?
pile that we're looking at, currently, I was up there last week. There are two small piles, I would say the equivalent of, let's say, 3 dump trucks. You know, like if it, you can't pack it in there, but you're looking at,
How can that be? I've seen 2 or 3 dump trucks past my place that are full.
mhm.
So are they burning now or chipping?
They're not taking every single limb to the pit.
Where's it going?
From what Kelly's told me, they're hauling some of it to Pueblo.
Then what's the issue? Why can't they haul it all?
You want them to haul it all?
Well, I'm saying, if it's gonna cause people to get upset and ring my phone off the wall, let them haul it to where they're already hauling. It stops all the phone calls right there.
It doesn't, because we are probably, we contribute to that pile more than they do.
How many phone calls have we received around Quinto Verde, Crow Cutoff from golf course burning?
We didn't get anybody this year.
See, I think it's, if we have to burn the thing twice a year, just notify them, say we're gonna burn it again, but I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill issue. That person can be removed for a day or two, work out something with them, and work with them, and at least notify that you're not going out there and doing it without any notice. And I think we're just milking this thing too far, and I think we're making a mountain out of a
If
molehill.
there's truly a health issue, are you willing to pay the hotel bill for them to leave for a day or two?
It'd be cheaper than a chipper.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm
If
saying.
Harry says that,
Yeah, but I think,
let's say,
you can look at
if
things.
that will take care of it, if we're willing to pay them for leave for a day or two, so that if they're truly, I don't know if they have asthma or not, but I've been told that's an issue with 1 or 2 of the residents.
Well, the first thing is they're calling everybody, and they should call the city offices where they need to call.
They
And
could
like
call the
I said,
EPA if they'd like to.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on with EPA when you see everything else going around.
It's no different than me going and having a pile at my house and I get a burn permit and burn the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
It's
it is.
size.
Well, but we're gonna
It's
keep the size,
size.
we're gonna keep the
He hasn't
size
been down and seen the
down.
size of my pile.
Yeah, we're gonna keep the sizes down if we have
I-
to.
You only
Okay.
worry
We're
about that, let's talk-
we're doing everything can to, we had one instance where we had to take 2 years worth and burn it. I can't control the weather, but in the instance of, let's say this year come October, we can cap the size. And I,
Person complaining right now,
And if it is maybe that situation,
That's what I'm saying.
you say, okay, we're gonna burn from this time to this time, alright? If it takes them it'd be $120 over 400 for an hour,
In my opinion, that would be well worth it.
you're more than one way to
If there's
skin
a
a
health
cat.
issue, that would be well worth it.
do I have to have documentation that there's a health issue? Or
Yes.
yeah,
I don't think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
that's the thing.
I would suspect that solution will cause some other complaints, but.
Yep.
Alright, let's move on. Anything else, old business?
Yeah, Joe or mine.
Next item, correspondence, received a letter from zoning, It is in your packet that, special use permit, they are having a meeting on May 15th, just to let you know if there is any, people that would want to say their voice. This section is for the VFC, they're asking for a rezone to an S1 district.
Which is what, James, I'm sorry? What's
It's
the S1?
more of a community center, is S1.
This one is public use.
Public use, which I think it was anyway with the golf course, wasn't it?
It didn't say it's a renewal of the one that they've had for 2 years.
It's just a yearly thing they do.
Yeah, it's a renewal.
It's just renewal.
Renewal of the one they have.
Okay,
That's all the correspondence I've had.
Section 8.
Huh?
Section 8.
all right.
When?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We're just now getting it?
I got it last Thursday or Wednesday. And that's why I put it in the packet.
Anything else to keep me from taking this gavel and hitting this little wooden log? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Great, have a good night.
Okay,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I didn't know you had to get that old.
Guys, before you leave, I got checks for you.
Nope. MSHA doesn't come in, they go through the state farm. It's, Colorado Department of, Natural Resources.
Why were you at
Your ops report is not doing
Sir?
Sure.
It's just basically. Yeah.
I'll be right back, James, I gotta walk, that's Josh.
The gravel pile?
I'm not well.
There's a loader there. Just a loader. Well, like when we need it, we don't, the city doesn't have a loader, so we'll run our backhoe up there, load it for, we'll say we're hauling for a week, and then
Did you
we
get
run
your
it back.
financials?
The county, the only piece of it there, they have a,
Sorry, I didn't get it in the book
There's
for you.
a-
Bought it.
They're laying right there. and I
conveyors
moved
that
that
come
rubber
there
on it.
that don't operate anymore, they don't work. They're just kinda stored off to the one end.
This gets shut off, or you already shut it off?
So, you know, like,
Push button on
it's
top.
about 20
Pardon?
acres that's open.
Push button top.
Right as you come in the gate, the old
Ooh,
conveyors.
that booger is hot.
We're probably 12 acres away from Indiana, where the Burnside is.
They
gotta go in there and I'll slide it
And then the pile of gravel, absolutely. And that's why we brought in, you know, I had, Steve, that come up and inspect.
I got it.
Felt that hot.